Phil, how are you?
Very well, Jeremy. Nice to hear your voice.
No, wonderful to hear your voice. Now, you're away, you're in Sydney, so thank you for taking the call. I've got
My pleasure.
no idea how busy you are, but knowing you, you're probably very busy. But I couldn't think of anyone better to talk to about this working from home stuff.
Yep.
It's quite extraordinary. The public servants, 400,000 of them there in New South Wales. You're in Sydney, aren't you?
Correct.
Yep. 400,000 public servants have been ordered by the Premier back to work. You've got to turn up at the office. Whether it's productivity or it's just simple common sense that people are going to work better in a slightly disciplined kind of environment, I don't know, but it makes sense to me. But none of the other states seem to be following that. Now, your whole background has been in employment. In fact, you've run some of the biggest employment agencies in the world, haven't you? Wow.
Oh, my memory's getting a little faded these days, Jeremy, but I'll accept that. It's very kind of you.
Well, you grew your business to 2,500 employees and revenues heading towards 50 million a year. That's one hell of a successful business.
Some years ago. Thank you, Jeremy.
And employing people. That's when you employ people. We'll talk about the working from home business in a second. But when you employ people as a recruitment organisation, how do you do it? Because it's like putting the round peg in the round hole and the square peg in the square hole. It sounds perfectly simple and reasonable, but I'm sure it's not that easy.
No, it starts with getting a really good understanding and grasp of what the employer or the client is looking for. And it's a blueprint or a specification, no different to what construction and builders have to do before they lay the first brick. So we describe the person, the perfect person and the role, and then we get the client to sign off on that, and that's the specification or the blueprint against which we assess people that we're considering for that role.
Yeah. Well, you make it sound very simple.
Well, experience helps because there's a lot of clever people out there that are good at, shall we say, disguising their less interesting attributes and gilding the lily and overstating, I should say, about their achievements and their abilities.
Yes. Is that legal? Can you dress up your CV to the point where it's just a pack of lies?
Of course. Of course, until you get caught and then you say, oops, sorry.
Yeah. Well, so you've got to be, apart from being a mind reader, you've got to be a good judge of character, and you've got to be able to read between the lines.
Yes, no, you've really got to concentrate and focus when you're interviewing people. And I've always put a lot of store, and I'm sad to say I think it's becoming less so. I put a lot of store on body language, the way people speak, the way they dress, the way they present themselves physically, eye contact, listening. You know yourself, there's nothing worse when you're trying to talk to people and their eyes dart anywhere but at your face.
Yeah. And
you always get the impression they're hiding or concealing something if they do that.
Just shifty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just pick up a lot of little traits that help you assessing key people. But then the final bit that we used to use was very, very detailed, very thorough reference checking. And that would often pick up things in someone's past that might be very good or not so good. Mm-hmm. The other area today, of course, is to go onto social media and check out people's activities on Facebook and TikTok and X and those sorts of social media channels. That can often throw up some pretty interesting stuff too.
Yeah. Now, you're not doing it at the moment, but you did it. How many recruitment companies did you have? I can remember 2. And you build them up sky high, then sell them, and then a couple of years later come back and do it all again.
Well, I think the proudest thing was to build up a little company in Adelaide and get it to a size which got the attention of the largest recruitment firm in the world, a company called Randstad, which is actually out of the Hague in Holland, and they are just massive. Well, they were interested in this business that we'd started in Adelaide, and really it was quite a credit, I think, to be able to do that at a time when companies sadly were starting to close down or leave Adelaide.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because it's a crying shame. When I came to Adelaide in '76, we had more head offices, I think, in Adelaide than they did in Sydney or Melbourne. Or must have been. We had a significant number of really big companies head office right here. Now I don't think we got any.
I think it's less than 5. I can remember when I first started in management consulting in the early 70s that we had 50 publicly listed ASX companies in Adelaide, and yes, as you say, we're down to probably less than 5, and this has been a very big part of Adelaide's demise. It's contributed to the brain drain. Our kids can't get the sort of jobs they want in Adelaide because the companies don't exist. And we keep pushing the wrong things about Adelaide. We talk about this beautiful lifestyle, but there's a really important thing missing here, Jeremy. It's a job, and it's a high-paid job.
Yeah.
People need money in their pockets, and they'll come to Adelaide if there's really good jobs paying good salaries.
How would we turn or begin to turn this around? I'm tempted to say turn back the clock to a time when it was a much busier and much more successful business city or centre.
Jeremy, it was far more dynamic back in the 70s and 80s than Adelaide is today. Adelaide's a sleepy hollow.
Can't we turn it around?
Yes, we can, but the people in power don't want to do it. They either don't want to do it because they don't know how to do it, or they see it as being not where they want to take. And the guy that we should be really studying through history was Playford.
Yeah.
Playford lowered costs, brought in cheap labour, and attracted major businesses to South Australia.
What sort of incentives did he use?
Well, cheap labour. He got a lot of immigrants out from the UK. Yeah. You might remember he established Elizabeth and Salisbury.
Well, land would have certainly been cheaper, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. He was able to privatise ETSs, so power was very cheap. So there are your two biggest costs running a business, large businesses, power and cost of labour, and he fixed them. Now, I don't know why the current government or governments we've had in recent years haven't really focused on that. I'll give you a good example. This Lot 14, where they have suggested the idea of an Indigenous art gallery. Mm. I mean, I'd prefer to see Microsoft or Google or Amazon or one of these state-of-the-art AI companies coming to Adelaide and using it as their Asia-Pacific headquarters and employing 1,000 people on the cusp of the city.
Yeah,
money and vibe into the city.
And particularly when you think that around the corner from North Terrace, there's a thing called Tandanya, which is a interpretive centre or art gallery or whatever, and it's basically closed up.
Exactly. They could centralise something there, do some renovations there and make that into a hub. I think that's a terrific idea. I'll tell you another opportunity that we lost badly. When Joe Weatherall was Premier, you might recall he sought out Elon Musk to come and build this huge battery in Jamestown because we'd had a failure with the infrastructure. Yeah. And we went into, we lost power for a couple of days. At that same time, we had an empty state-of-the-art General Motors factory at Elizabeth or Salisbury. Now, I would have done a deal and said, we'll give you the battery business and you'll get international publicity, which will be great for your business, because he was struggling at that time. But we want you to make Tesla cars for Asia Pacific from our empty plant in Adelaide. Yes. Now, that's a good example of where, there's a lack of entrepreneurial thinking at the highest levels, to answer your earlier question as to why these things aren't happening anymore.
You've never been tempted to go into politics?
No.
Well,
how much time have you got?
Well, you've got the practical experience, real-time experience in building businesses and making things work and putting the round peg in the round hole and the square peg in the square hole and making it work. Why don't we have people in power who have those qualities?
Well, I think the Labor Party have really shown the way. They look after their people and they sponsor them from an early age. I mean, if you look at our current Premier, he's been a child of the union movement. They've brought him through, and he's doing a fantastic job as state Premier. The Liberal Party, on the other hand, are just so full of infighting and backstabbing that you just wouldn't go near them. And they have just forgotten how to sponsor and bring people through the system. I just don't understand why they're not using the Chamber of Commerce around Australia as a training ground to bring people through, the same as the trade union movement do it for the Labor Party.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But getting back to the working from home business, you would applaud the decision in New South Wales to get all the public servants back into the city?
Yes, I would, but there are some qualifications there, Jeremy. People like you and me are so out of touch in terms of today's workplace culture. And I'll tell you some of the reasons why it's so popular, that is working from home. And they can be persuasive arguments. For a start, people save on commuting time. They save on petrol. They don't have to wear expensive clothes. Women don't have to put on makeup. They can wear their jock straps or their tracksuits at home. It gives them more flexibility during the working day. That time spent in commuting, particularly in big cities, is pretty, that adds up. And I think working from home, unless you've got a house full of young kids, there's less distractions, which should lead to better focus and increased productivity for the person.
Yeah, I just worry about the discipline and the fact that you've got to get up and shave and put your collar on and your tie or whatever the garb is, and then you go off to work. And in any case, if the boss says that this is what you do, I'm old school in the sense that you do what you're told.
Yes, I know, but that's what I said at the very beginning. We're out of touch now with what the young kids want. What you do need, though, is a really good performance assessment system so that if you give people the flexibility of working from home, you've still somehow got to measure their performance against what's expected of that job role. Yeah. And I don't know how you do that effectively. Now, on the other side of the coin, there's some real disadvantages of what this is creating, and I talk about CBDs. They're becoming ghost towns.
Yep. Well, I was talking about that this morning. For lease signs in shops and closed down coffee shops and clothing stores that have gone through the hoop. Yeah, no, it's true. You've got to have people, foot traffic, customers in the CBD if you're going to have a thriving economy, surely.
The impact of less people in the city is really a huge multiplier effect, and I don't think there's been a study done on it yet, but it really must be hurting small business.
Yes,
I know some of the top restaurants in Adelaide, as you do, and you talk to the owners and they're saying business has never been tougher. So it's certainly on its way. There's another aspect here too which is worrying, and that is the owners of large-scale buildings in cities might have their future tenancies discontinued, so no rent coming in.
Yeah.
That's going to have major effect. And a lot of these big buildings are in property trusts around the Western world, tied up in people's superannuation funds.
No, I don't know that people have thought too much about that, but you're perfectly right.
So there's going to be a ripple effect there down the track. But I think there is a solution to this, and that is that the employers, the larger employers that want people to come back into their offices in the cities, have got to think creatively about making those spaces far more attractive to entice people back.
Phil, great to talk to you. Have you retired completely?
No, I'm still doing the odd job for some good clients and still enjoying it. Still loving it, actually, Jeremy.
God bless you. I hope I see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself. Phil Speakman, ladies and gentlemen. Philip Speakman.